Hey everybody, it is Thursday, July 3rd, 2025. My name is Kevin Murcko. I'm the CEO here at Coinmetro, and this is called an AMA. You ask, I answer. There's already some asked, so I'm going to have to answer. Just to everybody know, I got a long cheat sheet today of all kinds of really cool stuff. It's so long, actually. I have two monitors, one in front of me, which is your normal landscape mode, and one that's kind of in portrait horizontal. I had to put the update list on the horizontal monitor, or the vertical monitor, sorry, because there's just too much stuff on it, and I didn't want to scroll. So what we'll do is I'm going to start taking some questions. The first one that asked me about anything that might be on this update list or close to what's on this update list, I'm going to go ahead and start giving you all the updates and go through the list. I think I got at least 10 things on this list. So here, let's jump into the first question from Rush Music. Hey, Rush, what is the next big thing for Coinmetro that will bring XCM to €1? Well, maybe I just got to jump into the list, I guess, because there's going to be a few things on there I think that are going to help to propel us higher. So here we go. Ready? I'm going to take your question off the screen here, Rush Music. Thank you for it. But I think that your answer, or part of that answer, is going to be inside this list, and then I'll give you the rest of the answer. Actually, you know what? I'll leave it up. Here we go. So what's happening with Coinmetro and what's been delivered? Here we go. I'm going to go 1 to 10, and then there's a few extras as well. XCM momentum, number 1 on my list. XCM up nearly 100% in the last month from where it was 30 days ago. Market's more stable. Market makers are doing their thing. There's been hundreds of thousands of euros in XCM buys, by the way, that are not related to Coinmetro and our buybacks. So just getting started there, but really cool to see we're back in double digits or nearly. If you look behind me, you're going to see a ticker. If you got a good zoom, because I don't, you can zoom in and see this says XCM up 32% on the day, 9.998 cents. That's as of 7 p.m., which was just about 2 minutes ago. This thing will update while we're here on the show. You'll see it go from green to red. So I monitor XCM at all times with this eye. Okay, number 2 on the list, community campaigns. So as everybody knows, I suppose, we have THT and XCM raffles going on right now. Both have really garnered a lot of traction. We have about 200 or over 250,000 in prize pools already, and that's fueling more activity. And obviously, in the future, it's going to fuel retention for sure as we see THT and XCM start to see some price discovery to the upside. So really cool. Obviously, you guys know there's a leaderboard. If you need the link to that, you can go to Telegram and ask somebody. You'll get it. You can check out the leaderboard for the gift frenzy. Sorry, and we also had the gift frenzy. Sorry, that's a whole nother thing where we just announced 3 winners on our social media. So you can go ahead and check that out, whether that be on X or whether that be elsewhere. App evolution. So we've been making a lot of really cool updates to the app in terms of its speed, optimizing how you can kind of browse within the app. There's a big update coming that has to do with the underlying framework of the app. That's coming next week. That's going to make it smoother. It's going to make it faster. It's going to make it a more optimal experience. And we're getting scarily close to that best-in-class mobile experience we've been shooting for ever since we launched the app. But definitely it's been moving in a much faster pace over the last month or two. So my virtual hat off to our tech team for all the hard work they've been doing. Number 4, UK reopening. So we're now fully compliant with S21, which is the promotional regime in the UK. So if you were in the UK and you were a client, if you want to be a client, if you've just become a client, we can now send you promotional stuff to your inbox, which is really cool. And you now have a renewed access to all features at Coinmetro. So we've also seen we've already seen a pretty good amount of interest. I would say even strong interest from the UK. We've found a few bugs here and there that have been quickly resolved as well. So really cool to see people coming back online from the UK. Liquidity aggregation is complete. We've now completed integration with CoinRoutes, which is an aggregation technology, so that we can provide more and more liquidity coming up on all assets across Coinmetro. And work on that continues, but the aggregation integration is now complete. Another relaunch, Australia. Not that Australia, we were offline in Australia, but we've struggled in the past years to have localized AUD deposits, Australian dollar deposits. We now have local AUD deposits, no deposit fee, very low withdrawal fee. And you can see those credit within minutes Definitely within 24 hours, depends on when they're sent, etc. But definitely a much more optimal experience to what we had in the past with Swift. So also Australia, or AUD, online deposits and withdrawals. Awesome. We now have something called the 9 Zeros Club. Yeah, 9 zeros. That's billions for those keeping track. And we have the first trader to hit the 1 billion club. And so we'll be rolling out some more information about the 9 zeros club, as we like to call it, over the next days, weeks, and months. But there are real perks. There's best poke support. There's real physical perks as well. You get some really cool stuff. I saw some really cool Coinmetro cufflinks, which obviously, once you traded 9 zeros, you have shirts that need cufflinks. Obviously, they mail them to you. I don't know where they come from, but there's a factory somewhere. There's some type of AI alert. Dude just traded $1 billion, and you start getting shirts with holes in the sleeves. So what are you going to do? Use some cufflinks. We got you back. USDG listing and global dollar network. I got to take a sip of a coffee at this point. USDG online for deposits and withdrawals. Liquidity coming up very shortly. Every time I put something near my face, I lose focus. Let me see if I can. Can we fix the focus? Talk to the hand. Maybe. I can't even tell if I'm focused anymore. Maybe I need glasses. So dollar network. So trading is going to be coming online. We were trying to get it online today. We're just fixing a few last things with liquid providers today. Tomorrow should be online. But USDG, some cool things coming behind the launch of USDG, which you'll be seeing over the next months as well. THT partnership. So definitely deepening the THT partnership. We talked about this, I think on the last AMA even. I've definitely been mentioning it within Telegram. THT up 180% in the last 30 days. The raffle also going on in THT, doing very well, showing a lot of traction, lots of price movement to the upside, which is really cool to see. And there's a lot more initiatives coming between Coinmetro and THT and Thought AI. You'll be hearing about those in the very near future. But I have one specific thing I want to mention today, and that's later on today, probably in the next 6 hours or so. You're going to see a video pop up on social media, all across social media from Thought AI, and it's going to be talking about one of the first public releases about Project X. They're going to be talking about what Project X is, not yet how Project X is coming into fruition, but the what. And it's going to be the first part of the Project X reveal, and it's coming this evening. So stay peeled, please, to social media. Follow Thought AI if you haven't already. Follow Coinmetro if you haven't already. I mean, what are you doing? What's wrong? But there you go. Big reveal starting tonight. There's going to be some really cool information pushed out. And there's a few other things coming from Thought over the next days and weeks that I think will really help propel it into where it should be, really, in terms of not just price, but awareness. And then let's say number 10 on my list. All right, number 10. Long delayed token updates. So we got Render and Rio. Already updated in the last 2 weeks. VXV is ready for development. Alpha is next. Tight deadline. Updates across in between July and August. Finally cleaning up that backlog. A few behind the scenes wins, which I think some of these are even bigger than some of the things I've already mentioned. We're testing new liquidity solutions for low volume assets, so that's going to go along with the aggregation I already talked about. We've had 30% App Store install growth over the last few months. Which is amazing to see as our app gets more and more optimized. Well, more people are using it. Very cool. Matching engine updates and the tech debt cleanup, paving the way for more market makers and higher API throughputs. So that's also really cool. And we're seeing that happen in real time. So what's coming next? And then I'm going to answer the rest of this question. What's coming next? USD Fedwire deposits and withdrawals. We expect that to happen within the month of July, maybe even towards the end of next week. That's going to allow USD for individual account. We've already had Fedwire for institutional accounts or corporate accounts. Now we're going to get it online for individual accounts. It's going to be fast. It's Fedwire, and it's going to be priced accordingly, meaning it's going to be pretty cheap to be able to fund your account with USD. Once again, finally. BTC staking, we're launching that in August. Actually, that's a whole nother piece of the platform that's going to kind of have the difference between on-chain and off-chain staking. So in terms of staking and then earning, and BTC is going to be the first launch there. So that's really cool. We soft launched that product a while ago, but finally being able to push it live. And DCA rolling out in August and September. Dollar cost averaging made easy. and being able to create plans and such from the mobile app. So there you go. Now, to get back to this question, I mentioned a whole bunch of stuff. Obviously, what's going to really fuel XCM to €1 is client acquisition, right? How do we get new clients? Well, obviously doing the really great stuff we've been doing ever since inception, and also doing a lot more great stuff. One of those things is obviously client support. We all know that. We know that's one of our biggest USPs. But on the back of that, we're also launching new products, new services, essentially making everything as optimized as possible, and really pushing to find those clients that are in that, I would say, sweet spot that I've talked about a lot in the past, where they're already into crypto. They already maybe even have an account somewhere, but they feel kind of left out. They don't feel like they're getting the support they need. They don't like there's too much going on. They need somewhere where they can focus. They want to deal with a different company. They feel the company they're dealing with isn't for them. And so client acquisition is going to fuel XCM to €1. Also, getting lists like this on every AMA is going to fuel XCM to €1. Making sure that all that tech debt is gone, making sure that everything is optimized, that we're ready and primed for growth, is also going to fuel XCM to €1. Not to mention the amazing job of our marketing team with these different promotions that we've been running, and there will be more and more to come, that's for sure. Definitely gaining exposure, not just for XCM, but for Coinmetro in general and other assets like THT. So moving on, is this the pivotal moment for Coinmetro? If yes, why now? Well, I think it is part of a pivotal moment, absolutely. I think what we're seeing is the more people that get eyes on XCM, especially with market making now in place, being able to provide a more stable market so people can trade, so you're not seeing these peaks and valleys and troughs and et cetera that scare traders away. But along with market making, it's just people are starting to realize, the tokenomics. I think they're starting to see that those buybacks, even in our current size, are absolutely helping support the market. And the upside growth is because people are seeing that. I think that's the simplest way to describe it. With Mars V2, and I was talking about this today with my chief revenue officer, hoping to get Mars V2. I literally just scrolled forward just to make sure nobody said my mic wasn't working, because that would have been ridiculous. Because I didn't ask for a mic check, which I usually do. Anyway, all these things coming together, the marketing team, et cetera, doing all these wonderful things. All that stuff, as I said, is not only going to fuel us to €1, but fuel us well past it. And with Mars V2 coming, and I talked to our chief revenue officer who sits above product and marketing. And, whether we get to that towards the end of this year or we finalize it towards the beginning of next year, there's a few things in flux that hopefully will allow us to do this sooner. But with Mars V2 coming out as well, we already have the best tokenomics of any exchange. People are seeing that now with increase in volumes, right? And they're seeing the potential. But Mars V2 will separate us by such a margin from any other tokenomics engine connected to, I think, almost any platform, never mind exchanges. That's going to be a major piece. And I think people are starting to realize that. Hey, Kevin, thanks for the video. In your opinion, when is the alt season going to finally start, if at all? And what are your thoughts on Reactive Network? So I think you need to define alt season, because in the past, a rising tide kind of brought up all ships, right? Meaning there were a few thousand altcoins. When Bitcoin did well, people took profits. They pretty much flooded into almost every single altcoin, and that caused the market to move. Why? Well, altcoins in general have lower market caps than Bitcoin. And so a little bit of money from Bitcoin into alts would spike the market. Spiking the market got people excited, got FOMO. There you go. Now there's millions. When I say millions, there's double-digit millions. I don't know what it is now. Last time I looked, it was almost 40 million altcoins. Fueled a lot on the back of the meme coin frenzy, the fact that you could launch, meme coins very easily on Solana. We're going a bit back to fundamentals, I think, in the market. So we saw a brief period earlier this year when old school alts, the good old boys, XRP, Cardano, etc., saw a lot of influx of funds, probably not new funds, but funds kind of following old 4-year cycles, Bitcoin up, money flows into other assets. But we saw that hasn't continued. And I think what we're seeing now is the new retail clients that came in during meme frenzy are a bit smarter now. They're not throwing money anywhere and everywhere. They're trying to learn. They're doing a bit of research. I do think, as I've said in the past, that when it comes to that type of market that's in fluctuating between, let's say, or that not the market in general, but the people in the market, the traders in the market. They're going from, they came in a frenzy. We had the initial ICO frenzy, right back. Not the initial, obviously crypto had been around a bit, but you had the ICO frenzy. Then you had the NFT frenzy. Then you had the meme coin frenzy. Every time the newbies that come in, they get FOMO, they jump in. Most of them lose money, and then many of them leave and never come back. Some of them stay, and those that stay start to do research. And when it comes to assets that can do well and maintain value even through bear markets, and generally maintain value very well through bull markets, you're talking about infrastructure tokens tied to some piece of infrastructure. That includes platforms, that includes things like exchanges. And I think what we're seeing now is a transition from people looking to make 1 billion% overnight and basically gambling. And now that, and the NFT guys already figured that out. Not all of them, but the ones that stayed. The ICO bubble guys figured that out, and those are the ones who stayed. And now you're getting the last influx, which is the meme coin frenzy guys that are figuring that out. And so when you talk about alt season, I don't think there's going to be an all-encompassing alt season where every alt goes up. I think we have seen many alt seasons that have been thematic throughout the year. I think we're going to continue to see that, but I do expect Q4 into Q1 to see some, let's say, combined price action across multiple altcoin themes, probably in culmination of the last 4-year cycle before we see what the maturing of this market looks like. I think the maturing of this market is going to put us on par with more traditional markets. So Bitcoin is essentially something else now, and everything else is, I believe, going to function more like a traditional market, which means you're going to have earnings reports or something similar. You know, you're going to have AMAs where people talk about what's going on in these companies, and based on fundamentals, still going to be FOMO, that's for sure, but based on fundamentals, you will start to see ebb and flow in and out of markets. But I do expect Q4 and Q1 to be out season-esque. All right, that was a long answer. Hey, Kevin, what? Oh, I already got that one. Sorry. Hey, hello, Kevin. Any news on whether it's possible to become a shareholder, buy bonds for a smaller budget? Not quite yet, but over the next few weeks, you will get that information. I can confidently say that. When staking 2.0, actually, I believe in the works right now for a native staking on the app. So if I remember correctly, and I'd bring it up right now, but I have too many screens open. In terms of the roadmap, I think it's going into Q4, if I'm not mistaken. How much of the funding run has been closed? A decent minority approaching a majority. More information is going to be released on that over the coming weeks as well. We're preparing some announcements. Thanks, Jack. I appreciate it. Definitely, you're a part of that, man. You are our warrior on TG and all those cool infographics. So thanks for all the work you've done behind the scenes. Is there any growth metrics you can share? Number of users? Are we close to profitability? We are close to profitability. We are within about 30% of break even. And I do believe we're going to hit that potentially even within Q3, if not definitely within Q4, we will become a profitable entity. Maybe not, I don't know why I put air quotes on that. Maybe not, a massive amount of profitability right out the gate, and all that money is going to go right back into the company. For those wondering, we're going to be reinvesting for client acquisition, et cetera. But we're close. We're very close. In terms of metrics, I don't have anything to share with you today. But based on those 13 things I shared off of my vertical list, things are heating up in many ways at Coinmetro, and for the better, I would say. Any exciting biz dev news to share? Not quite yet. There are a few things kind of we're working on in the background. A lot of those things have to do with things like USD, things like additional deposit methods, et cetera. Also still have some talks in the background about potential mergers and acquisitions and things like that, but nothing really more to share at this point, but I'll keep you guys apprised. Really enjoy the THT and AMA. You joined too. Do you actually know what project it is, or how are you also in the dark? I know more than you guys know. I guess that's how I can answer that question. But you're going to know more than what you know now within about 5 hours or so, 6 hours or so, as I said, from THT themselves. right from the horse's mouth. Any tech debt highlights? Yep, I think I highlighted that a bit in this optimization on my vertical list there. Tech debt is moving swiftly. By the end of the year, we should not have any tech debt or any, let's say, tech debt that's weighing us down. And potentially, I'm not talking about December 31st either, but by the end of the year. I should say going towards the end of the year. Hey, Debbie, thanks for the confetti. Appreciate that. Click on the like button. That would be awesome. How close are we to ACH USD withdrawals? Well, we are very close to Fedwire withdrawals. Fedwire happens normally on the same business day, so it's actually faster than ACH. Obviously, it carries a slightly higher cost, but still, it's faster. ACH, we should be able to do with the same partner. We're going to roll out Fedwire, but they are still doing, I think, checks on their side. We also just got approved for bank accounts at a bank in the state of Texas, which allow for ACH, but we need to figure out how to do it because they don't have automation on their side. So we are actively moving towards that. Can't really give you a date yet on ACH. What I can tell you is that this month you're going to have Fedwire withdrawals and deposits. Hey, Mr. Nipple Tickler. There we go. Well, to answer that other question, let's scroll back up here from Rush Music. What is it going to take to get XCM to €1? Here you go, man. Mr. Nipple Tickler is going to push it over the line for us. Thanks, man. I do appreciate that. When DCA and USD? Well, when DCA is launched, which will be in August or September, you'll be able to do it with USD, tied to Apple Pay, Google Pay, and then eventually ACH as well, or to your balance. So you'll be able, if you Fedwire in some money, you'll be able to do that from your balance as well. Hey, Kevin, good to see you as always. What are your thoughts on the big Q4 coming for Bitcoin and altcoins? So much pain for so long in altcoins. Hey, man. Yeah, I discussed this a little bit already. Well, I do think Q4 is going to be a Q4, meaning generally speaking, that's usually good for Bitcoin. There's been 2 Q4s since Bitcoin's inception that weren't so great. I don't expect this to be one of them. We're going to have to see what happens. We just saw a really good jobs report out of the U.S. or better than expected, which usually means they're not going to cut rates. But, we all see that Trump is putting a lot of pressure on Powell, though Powell seems not to care and maybe even out of spite isn't acting. But because of that jobs report, that normally means you're not cutting rates or have one less reason to cut rates, I guess. However, I do expect Q4, as said, to be good into Q1 as well. I don't expect the same level of capitulation that we've seen in the past with Bitcoin, meaning it's going to go from, I don't know, wherever it hits, 120, 130, 140, 150, down to, 30K or something. I don't expect that to happen. Not saying that can't happen. I just don't expect it to happen fast and right on the tail end of Q1 into Q2, Q3, which we've seen in previous 4-year cycles. I do think we're going to see a lot of thematic baskets across altcoins start to spike. As the altcoin market gets cleaned up, meaning memes kind of go away, at least memes that have no value or no utility, we're going to see people focus on, like I said, infrastructure. Whether that's, and there's some decent plays out there when it comes to AI infrastructure, including Thought. There's decent plays when it comes to exchange infrastructure like Coinmetro and Great Tokenomics in general tied to platforms. And so that's going to take some time. That's a more long-term view. I think we're going to see multiple thematic baskets pop Q4, Q1. In Kevin We Trust, here since ICO and never sold. Awesome. Well, I expect you to see higher prices than you've ever seen in the coming future. And I think we're all going to be smiling when that happens. Mr. Nipple Tickler, contrary to popular belief, I do not tickle nipples. This is a disgraceful piece of slander. All right. Well, I didn't assume that. I actually thought it was pronounced Nipple Tickler, but because I just didn't, I don't know, where people are viewing from. I didn't want to confuse anybody. So how's Mrs. Nipple Tickler, by the way? Everyone to Kevin's house for the 10-cent party. Whew, I don't know if I'm going to fit everybody, but I'll give it a shot. It might be shoulder to shoulder, but we'll be all right. Super excited about Coinmetro's futures. Huge things are coming, and we don't promise much. We are only promising what we can deliver. We learned our lesson, Deep Philippe. That's for sure. Any thoughts about THT and Project X? I think I gave a few already, so I'll keep. But yeah, THT is working on some really cool stuff. They got some really good, really, really amazing announcements coming up. Make sure you stay peeled to their socials. What makes you so bullish on THT? Can you talk a little about what to expect with Project X? Well, I've talked a little bit about it already, as much as I think I can. Like I said, there's going to be more information released tonight from THT directly. They got a really good team. They are actually solving problems. What they didn't have in the past was reach. They weren't doing the marketing side of the business to the extent that would have been amazing to see, and they're starting to do that now. And so, with all the stuff they have going on and all the announcements coming about Project X and other things, as long as they can continue to push and they continue to get more and more exposure, THT is going to do well. Will you become top 5 exchange, and if so, how long? Hey, Christopher. Well, I think with our tenacity, the things we're working on are now amazing ability to deliver, finalizing this current fundraising round. All those things coming together will give us a lot of fuel to get on that trajectory. It's going to take more than that to get us into top 5, but it'll definitely create enough momentum to push us up that list. And my only goal is to be the best we can be. I want a place where people can come that's not just transparent, that treats them right, that's a first name basis with clients, that people understand that we're always working in their best interest. And if achieving that, I think that puts us within that list, or it should put us within that list. Exciting to know Authority AI is moving forward. Timing is divine, of course. Absolutely, Debbie. It always is. It always is. Hey, Mark. Nice to see you, man. I would wave, but then my camera's going to go out of focus. So my understanding is the referral system not working properly. What is the status? Making USD easier to deposit withdrawal will help in recommending CM to others. Referral system, the fix is in. All we're doing right now is finalizing accreditation of owed rewards. That should be finished sometime between today and tomorrow. So that referral system fix may go live tomorrow. At the latest, it would be Monday, but the fix is done. It works. It's tested. Victor, how you been, man? I'm good. Nice to see you in the AMA. Any chance CM will do flare drops for XRP holders? That's a good question. That's actually a good question asked to Alex in Telegram. We'll have to see. I don't know if I guess we would have received. Actually, I remember back in the flare airdrop days, I think we had XRP with either BitGo or Fireblocks, and they either were or weren't supporting. I remember there being some information about whether they were supporting or not. So it's a good question. I don't know if we ever even received the airdrop, to be honest. I think we're on time. We're only the best altcoins with significantly. Yeah. I think that's always been the case. Like if you zoom out far enough, that's always been the case. But the market needed a way to figure out what the best altcoins are. And, that's the process. I'm getting all that juicy XCM before new Mars comes. I've gained nearly 6K over the past couple of years. Awesome, Christopher. Keep on accumulating, man. We appreciate you. Okay, and agree about the alt season. I hope the best tokenomics and tech become the biggest winners, taking it all. Yeah. Well, it won't be the only thing that makes winners winners. There's always going to be FOMO in this market. As long as there's retail money, there's going to be FOMO. You can see what retail money did to, traditional markets. Look at quote unquote meme stocks. So that's not going to go away, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, you could argue, whoops, didn't mean to click on that. Give me a second. You could argue that it's a good thing, but it's not going anywhere. That's for sure. So, Runway, U.S. office, BizDev. Is there anything being done to bring whales to Coinmetro? So, Runway. Runway is a bit more extended than it was before, considering operational costs and our current. We've also raised it. Well, we also raised a bit of money. So I don't want to give away how much we've raised, and somebody would be able to do the math. But let's say Runway is significantly larger by a multiplier, by several multipliers since the last time I mentioned what Runway was. U.S. office, BizDev. U.S. office not on the cards just yet. Still waiting to see what the U.S. does with federal regulation. We're working right now on VARA licensing, our completion of the full VARA license in the UAE, UK as well, and MiCA in the EU. Bringing whales. Well, the 9-0 club, I think, is going to help. Getting our liquidity optimized, getting our matching engine optimized will absolutely help. getting our new API environment out, which I believe is scheduled for September, is absolutely going to help. That means that we will no longer have limitations on how many large API clients we can service. Hi, Kev. Awesome stuff once again. Hats off to you and your team. Thank you. What do you think about ETH? Will it reach previous all-time high and continue upwards after Bitcoin hits new all-time high, alt season afterwards? In previous 4-year cycles, ETH has had to hit all-time highs. So Bitcoin has had to hit all-time highs, come off of its all-time highs, stay in a decent range. ETH has then had to hit all-time highs, and then we saw an alt season. Now, I think we'll see somewhat of a reflection of that Q4, Q1. I think ETH is going to start to make a run. I don't know whether it hits all-time high or hovers right above it or breaks out. That's a hard one to answer. I do think it has upside potential, and I think it will continue to go higher than it is currently. But considering this hypothesis that the 4-year cycle is gone, and we're now looking at utility factors, and so that means looking at how many people are using ETH, what the transaction volume looks like, how do you actually value ETH versus the amount of assets that sit on its chain, the amount of transactions that flow through its chain, etc. I think it has potential with the rest of the market to move to an all-time high. As far as whether that all-time high can compete with Bitcoin in terms of percentage, right now that's going to be a difficult one. Why? Well, ETH had the ICO bubble and they had the NFT bubble. They didn't have the meme coin bubble. Now the next question is, what's the next bubble? And will ETH be a part of that bubble? There's a huge marketing opportunity on Mars 2 launches. There absolutely is, 100%. Thanks for the reminder. Clicked on the like button. I appreciate that, Debbie. Thank you. What are your thoughts on Kadena Chainweb EVM? I've been a fan of Kadena since they launched. I think like every company, us included, they made some missteps coming out of the last bull run back 2021, 2022. They've corrected some of those missteps. We now see JP Morgan launching a stable coin, which is literally one of the projects I think that basically became Kadena. So I've said this a million times. I'll say it again. One, I think the Kadena has cleaned up a little bit their Explorer, which is great because it was not the easiest to use. They need to pick a niche. I think that they need to focus on, and I haven't followed a lot of what's been coming out of Kadena recently, so maybe you know more than I do, but finding something that they're good at, problems they can solve, and sticking to that to see that momentum, to see that growth, and then snowball that momentum into looking at other problems that they know they can solve better than others, whether that be because of scalability, whether that be because of other pieces of their ecosystem that allow for easier integration, etc. I think that's what they need to be doing. And that's not just Kadena, that's any layer one at this point. And honestly, I hope Bitcoin fails because all what it implies, but of course it's not going to happen thanks to the most criminal government in US history. Well, if Bitcoin were to fail, the fact that this market I don't think is mature enough yet to understand that it can exist without Bitcoin, it might just kill the whole market, to be very honest. The cheat list at the start was epic. Been hell of a month. Well done, Coinmetro. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate that. What problems are THT solving that can't be better solved without blockchain? Their military, VR, video game training. Okay, so, hey, Victor, I love your questions, man, as always. So that's going to be released. That part of that, what problems they're solving or what issue have they cracked in terms of AI in general, is going to be coming out in their Project X update. So I'm going to let them share that. I'm not going to drop the information before they do. Now, this idea, I think, I know you love to come at the blockchain, why a token. And I've said this in the past. If you ask any company why a token, the answer that you need a token, the answer to that almost every time is we don't need a token. In fact, I would say it's every time. Of course, the answer or the veracity of that answer might not be the best, meaning of why they don't need a token. But still, you could make an argument why no one needs a token. But you can also make arguments like that for every other industry that ever, and when I talk about industry, we're talking about generally finance, maybe with blockchain right now, or with distributed ledgers, because that's really where the most quote unquote problems could or can or have been solved. Or movement of information, or let's call it movement of information or value. And so, yeah, they could do what they're doing potentially without a token. But why the token then? Well, there's part of that reason is kind of this movement from, let's say, what everybody calls Web 2 to Web 3. You can own a piece, you can take part, where in Web 3 that really wasn't possible, at least not as easily. The tokenization of things allows for a lot of different problems to be solved. And I'm not saying they're solved today, and I'm not talking about THT solving problems, I'm talking about just blockchain in general. And so could they solve those problems without blockchain? Sure, they could. Just like every other business has solved problems in the past. Could we be transacting around the world without the likes of things like PayPal? Did we need PayPal back in the day? No, we didn't. But it optimized things, especially for eBay, who was trying to sell Pez dispensers and people and had no way to accept money easily. So every innovation you see, you can always question it, and there's always going to be the answer, and it's going to be a valid one for some time. You don't really need to be doing this. Just like, why crypto for payments? We already have blah, 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 blah. Well, that's true now in many cases, but it won't be true in the future, because as distributed ledgers become more useful and more scalable, they are inevitably going to become more optimized for many types of transactions than standard services are now. They can become safer, they can become more accurate, they can become more traceable. There's a lot of different reasons. Some of those things might be good for some and bad for others. But anyway, and I think, the military application, look, at the end of the day, if the U.S. military decides that they want to use AI or AI agents from Thought or their infrastructure to be able to scale testing across the U.S. military, whether it's a VR video game or not, or whether it's a highly complex system, I don't think even makes a difference. What that means is massive amounts of exposure. It means massive amounts of funding, and it means Thought's ability to potentially solve, what you may consider to be an actual problem. Hey, Leo, awesome. Nice to see you too. No negativity. Sorry, just trying to be realistic with all the coldness it implies. No worries, man. I love your questions. Keep them coming. Great news on referral system. Yep. Awesome. Well, amazing. Thank you for that. That should be everybody. If I caught, anybody in my family using Binance, I don't know, man. It'd be a rough day for them, and then probably a rough bit of time for me, depending on the outcome. Any news on the stake and reward bug? It was supposed to have been fixed in Q1, but we're still not getting the rewards we were supposed to. Good question. I will follow up with me in Telegram. DM me, please, and I'll get an answer for that tomorrow when I have my one-on-one with our head of delivery in tech. What's your opinion on Ethereum's disappointing price? Well, I think I mentioned it a bit. Look, Ethereum was the silver to Bitcoin's gold for years, and everything that happened in the altcoin market touched Ethereum. That's not the case anymore. And Ethereum's had to try and has been trying to figure out how to maintain relevance. They've done so in many ways because there's been so much money invested into Ethereum and EVM chains that they have a lot of old school Web 2 infrastructure that's being built, that's being placed on their, let's say, within their ecosystem in order to build out Web 3. And that's like banks, banks moving bonds, moving value from one place to another. They may be tests, but if a bank builds something, let me tell you, they're going to use that for a long time. Banks aren't in the business of building new technology for their own use case. Why? Because you make one mistake that shaves off a 1/18 of a decimal point, and that becomes billions of dollars over time, billions of euros, billions of pounds. And so in reality, what we have here is, I think, a bit of stagnation, because there's been a lot of tests and a lot of companies and a lot of banks and financial infrastructure using Ethereum. But maybe due to the price point, potentially, they're starting to think, well, let's hold off on this. Or maybe it's because of because of regulatory issues, whether that be in the US or otherwise. A lot of those things, regulatory specifically, is now gone, at least in the US. And so over time, I think Ethereum is still going to do well. Why? Because, like I said, it was built onto or into or built on top of or built adjacent to, let's say, old technology or finance in general, I would say, when it comes to finance. And they're not going to build again on something else. So the reason I think we don't see price is because the people that are in crypto, the real crypto people, right? the people that have been around for a while, that have already seen a few bubbles, etc., they look for more opportunities. They might be looking at SUI. They might be looking at other layer ones that they feel may do better in the short term. And so they're throwing their capital there. And new capital hasn't really started to flow like it had in other 4-year cycles yet back into the market. I expect to see some more of that Q4, Q1, as I said. And so we're in a bit of a mixed state for Ethereum. Long term, though, as I said, lots of infrastructure, lots of money has been spent on building on Ethereum, and I don't expect that, or EVM chains in general, I don't expect that to just go poof in the air, because institutions don't act that way, generally speaking. Updated thoughts on AI crypto like Tau, ICP, FET, from that stuff like Render, blah, blah, blah. I think the best examples of hype-driven value and FOMO. Yeah, Def, look, AI gets mentioned in the news all the time. So anything that has to do with AI is going to have its own little FOMO, its own little cluster, its own little thematic basket, its own little thematic bull market. The way you separate them there, I think most people don't. So most people are going to look at Render, or they're going to look at something like THT, or they're going to look at other things, even subreddits on Tau, and just believe it's all just AI, and AI is big and AI is making money, so let me throw some money at AI. This goes back to the question I just answered, in the sense that we haven't seen a lot of new money flowing into crypto. Normally, we would see Q1, new money. We did see a bit of that. A lot of it went to Bitcoin, though, and that's because of EFTs and et cetera. But during Q2 and Q3, we usually, see stagnation. We saw a bit of stagnation. Now coming into towards the tail end, or let's say middle Q3 down to the tail end of Q3 and into Q4, we generally see new money start to flow in again. Now, in the past, that happens a lot because somebody's Uber driver was like, bro, there's this meme coin. It's called Shibuzi. I don't know if that's actually a meme coin. Probably is. And it's going to go to the moon, bro. You should put like $100 on it. Trust me, I'm an Uber driver. I know what I'm doing. And, Shibuzi would go to the moon. Shibuzi would pull the rug and make a bunch of money, and everybody would get screwed. And previous to that, we had the NFT bubble. Bro, you got to buy this NFT. I don't know. Fucking Gucci made an NFT. It's got a tiger on it. It's amazing. Buy it. And before that, we had ICOs. And now we don't. Right now, that really doesn't exist. We see thematic baskets, rising because of just general hype outside of crypto that bleeds into crypto. But we don't have a crypto bubble right now like we had in the past. And I don't think we may not have one for Q4 or Q1 next year. And that's why I think it's oldies but goodies, as well as baskets. And the AI basket is one of them. Thoughts on little AI's tokenomics and long-term potential? Can't touch so much on their tokenomics because, to be honest, I read it a while ago, and I do believe they've probably made some changes, to be honest. Long-term potential. Look, there was a problem that they've been trying to solve. There's a problem that they're trying to solve. It's a real problem. If you have a group on Telegram, you get a lot of spam. And it may seem like a small thing, but if Telegram is going to be used to host communities that are from thousands to hundreds of thousands to whatever amount of members, it becomes a problem, especially for those projects that may not have 24/7, humans in there. And even when they have humans, they're going to miss things. And so they solve the problem. Great on them. And I think they do so pretty well. And over time, they're getting better and better at solving that problem. The question, like with every project, every business, is awareness. And does the investing public, or in some cases the gambling public, think that the problem we're solving is worthy of solving? And that, I think, might be where there's a bit of friction. Because me as a business owner with a Telegram group, I think it's worth solving. Absolutely. But if I asked my mother if she thought spam and Telegram was worth solving, she might say, what's Telegram, what's spam? She may think spam is the meat in the can. I don't know. So that's a problem that companies like Thought AI, and any company that solves a problem that might not be a problem that everybody assumes is a problem. Just like Victor just was talking about the problems or the things that Thought AI might be doing to him don't seem like they're worthy of value, right? And so it's about translating your value so that people know it's valuable. And I think that's where they need to put effort. And that's not just Thought AI. That's almost everybody. That includes Coinmetro, to be very honest. So Victor doesn't like little AI. Big Beautiful Bill just passed. Thoughts related to crypto market? Well, I think just politically in general, the crypto got behind Trump and the Trump administration. And he's done a lot. His administration has done a lot to ease access to crypto in the US. So that's amazing. But if that bill is passed, or that bill has just been passed through the House, I know it passed the Senate. I hadn't seen it pass the House. But anyway, if it passes the House or has passed the House, they're spending more money than the Biden administration did. And, they did say they were going to not get into new wars. They said they were going to do a few things. There's things they've definitely done. There's things they haven't. Look, that's every administration. But the question is, how will crypto in general view this? If they think it leads to rate cutting, which it probably wouldn't necessarily, they may be all for it. Maybe that actually adds momentum to the market. If they think it's going to delay rate cutting, which delays money going into risk on assets, they may not like it. If the political energy just turns, and even if people don't understand how all this economy stuff works, they may simply start to pull money from crypto because, they may feel slighted that, I don't know, things aren't moving as fast as they would have liked. So we'll have to see. The direct tie into crypto it's relatively indirect. I think. I don't think it's direct, but that sometimes doesn't make any difference. People are going to base an assumption. Trump lied to us. I don't want to support Trump anymore. Does that mean that they don't support crypto if they came into crypto because of the Trump administration? Could be. The percentage of people in crypto right now that applies to is probably not the biggest. Hey, Contrarian, I do. Fail. Well, fail is a big word. I think Binance will cease to exist at some point. At this point, the U.S. government pretty much has access to all Binance files, right? So the real question is, can Binance remain profitable? I know they're big. You don't have to tell me how big they are. I know they're big. Can Binance remain profitable with its current size, not doing some of the things Binance did in the past to become profitable? That's the real question. And if they can't, what happens? Does that, with BlackRock and other big financial, Fidelity, et cetera, really starting to throw money behind crypto, I do think eventually Binance becomes a part of that infrastructure, a part of that traditional infrastructure. And a lot of the reasons people use Binance is going to go away. What's the more undervalued coin at Coinmetro in your opinion? I think there's a lot of undervalued tokens and coins on Coinmetro, mainly tokens, I guess. I definitely have to throw in XCM. I would say THT is also undervalued. I'd say we have a few tokens like Okta that I believe is also undervalued. If you look at what you're able to do, how you're able to render, etc. With Okta, comparatively speaking to some other AIs out there. I think there's a lot of things that are undervalued. I would even say little AI is probably undervalued. I mean, they are solving a problem and a real problem within our industry. But that's all. But does that mean anything? Unfortunately, no. As stated in a few comments that I already made. Hey man, how are you? Debbie, once again, perhaps blockchain and tokens promote unity in solving problems. Yeah, look, both tokens and blockchain can solve problems. That's for sure. Previously, back in the ICO bubble, people would build things and create a problem that doesn't really exist to try and show that they were solving it. I think we have matured past that for the most part, in that now we're trying to build things to solve problems that actually exist or already exist. Again, it's just the fact that how many people have that problem and who you're marketing to. Why do you think Flux is so low in price? Are you still bullish? Anything new with partnership? Nothing quite yet new with partnership. We have been working with them on some other things indirectly. We just did a listing for a company that kind of indirectly related to Flux. And so definitely still a good relationship there, but no new information on partnership. Yeah, Flux, I think one thing could potentially be is that parallel assets are done. And there could have been a lot of people holding Flux or staking Flux or holding Flux and just getting those parallel assets. And then once the parallel assets were done, they recycled or cycled that money into other opportunities. That very well could be the case. I think that's at least part of it. I don't think it has anything to do with what Flux is doing behind the scenes or what's been. Sorry, guys, I had a little blip. I hope we're back. Give it a second. I think we're back. Okay, sorry about that. So when you try to be good at everything, sometimes you lose. Maybe you might not lose focus, but your end users do. They don't know how to interact with you. So I think that's all. I think those two things are probably, for the most part, why we may see the price action we're seeing. A lot of tokens have fallen in price. So it could, three things then. The market in general, The fact that they're working on so much stuff, the end user may be confused. And I guess the third thing is, parallel assets going away. As always, thanks for the great answers. To be honest, crypto goes much beyond Bitcoin simply because efficiency. I agree. The question is not necessarily if we agree, it's if the perception of everybody else. As always, thanks for, I think that was twice. Thanks, Victor, for asking those amazing questions. When 1 million XCM staking limit gone on the launch of V2, that 1 million staking limit will be gone. That's part of it. Mars V2. If we all die one day and eventually everything we did is forgotten, does anything really matter? Well, I don't think anything's going to be forgotten anymore because, well, we got the internets. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it's all going to be there. And so it's stored in so many places, right? That decentralized nature of the internet, it's stored in a lot of places. We're not going to lose it all, that's for sure. But I agree with you. That's like, if a tree falls in the forest, doesn't make it, and no one hears it, did it make a sound? I would say it made a sound, but that sound might not mean anything because no one heard it. Well, that is true. Well, there are certain things that always matter, but those things generally tend to be, people think they're remedial when there's so much other stuff going on. Like, you need air to breathe, for example. You need food to eat. You need water to drink. You need shelter might even not go into that list, but there are things that in the grand scheme of things will always matter. But remedial when so many things are happening in people's lives. When will the trading competition end for THT coin? It's 30 days after it launched. I think that's right towards the end of July, if I'm not mistaken. Uber, a data company that only loses money while damaging taxis, but I guess all their data is worth something. That data is definitely worth something, that's for sure. And one thing you can definitely say about Uber, whether you like them or not, is they changed the game. That's for sure. The idea that most people thought was stupid when they initially heard it has definitely changed the way people move around the world. No update currently on the merger, but keep peeled to Telegram. If I have something, I'll let you guys know. So I already talked about Flux. Yeah, tomorrow is the 4th of July, so happy birthday to the United States. Maybe I'll shoot a firework off. If someone has some cool firework shots, throw them in a Telegram. All very good to be patriotic. Little AI is for sure conceptually cool. The issue is compute costs for real mass scale. I agree. I agree with that. That's for sure. Compute costs can definitely murder a business. True. Well, AI wrappers, we've seen AI wrappers with billion-dollar valuations. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And again, every time new tech launches, there's always wrappers. We didn't call them that back in the day, but there's always wrappers. You can even call Uber a wrapper. But, it doesn't necessarily mean anything when it comes to valuation and use. I believe we can and we will. We're getting there. Appreciate that, Victor. I don't think they're the end, but I've talked about this a million times in the past. The more liquidity that goes into a market, the less volatile it is. The less volatile, the less retail is going to be interested. So I don't think it ends. There's always everything's cyclical in life, but the cycle changes, and ETFs are a part of that. Spreads have been improved across many tiny alts, and our goal is to eventually get them very quickly now, get them improved across all alts. That was part of that aggregation integration that I talked about, and adding on additional liquidity providers and being able to do so through the aggregation. And this way we don't have to constantly be writing to fix or writing to different liquidity providers, which takes time. We can plug them in immediately. Any plans to tokenize stocks, bonds, etc.? We talked that we have Ignium in the background, which is exactly that. In fact, it was probably too soon for the market. That is definitely a piece. Imagine a Mars V2 where everything tradable on Coinmetro can then be given back, a portion of it given back, or the commissions of it given back to XCM holders, and imagine tokenized debt and tokenized equity as well. And so that's why we acquired Ignium. It hasn't been integrated yet. It's probably not going to happen until 2026. But yes, I do believe we've been talking about this for years. I think right now it's a bit gimmicky. So when you see things like what Robinhood's doing, if you're going to tokenize a stock that can already be bought pretty much anywhere, it doesn't really make any difference. Of course, it's on one app. Okay, that might make a difference. I don't know, for some people. But you can already buy the stock on Robinhood. Now you can buy the tokenized version. Great. I do think, though, when it comes to private companies, we can make a big difference with the likes of Ignium. That's where the problem is, really, not with tokenizing NVIDIA. We have around 5 people watching. AMA, big shout out. Yeah, I noticed those numbers jumping. I didn't want to say anything. I almost got nervous there for a second. I don't know if you noticed. But yeah, really cool to see. Absolutely. What happened to LTO? Good question. What happened? I think we delisted it actually, and more than likely because it was no longer supported by liquidity providers and or custody. Thoughts on Spain's market? Well, I would say Spain, in terms of the EU in general, has had an interesting market in comparison to, say, other markets within the EU. Bit more savvy. There's I can't remember the name of the exchange that's dominant in Spain, but we had some biz dev talks with a smaller exchange in Spain at some point. The regulator, the banks, BBVA, had dipped their foot in. They were providing services even when other bigger banks weren't. I think the Spanish market also is a bit more, the older Spanish market, which is probably the majority of people in Spain, maybe not the most risk on, but the younger crowd in Spain is definitely not risk adverse. They are risk on, and that bodes well. There's a decent middle class. I think I've even read somewhere that Spain's middle class was actually growing and not decreasing, which is the case across a lot of the EU. Or I shouldn't say a lot, a minority, but a growing minority of the EU, which also usually bodes well for platforms like exchanges or financial platforms in general. So I think Spain is becoming one of the more important markets for crypto, for sure. UK odd. Which market's next? CAD. Potentially CAD. We had some ability to provide services in CAD some time ago, but we didn't do it because there just wasn't enough. People weren't asking, right? We didn't see a need. We didn't see the need, but CAD could definitely be on the short list. That's for sure. AED as well after licensing in the UAE. All right. I don't speak German, but hopefully that's not some like scam message there, Flores, but I took it down just in case. Do you think the globe is becoming more fascist overall? Please tell us your current opinion and future worldwide geopolitics. Well, again, everything's cyclical. And so I think what you see, all these countries kind of going nationalist as well, including the U.S., is because people get tired of are getting tired of this globalist idea that everything should be open and everybody should help everybody else because they see it's not working for them. They feel that it's not working for their country. They feel that it's not working for their people. They feel that things are going backwards instead of forwards. And so generally, as we're coming out of that cycle, you're probably going to see I don't know if I'd go as far to say fascist, but if we had if it was if you're looking kind of at a chart, it's leaning maybe towards fascist. But I would say that's natural. It's the same reason why countries generally go from one side of the ticket to the other in a two-party system because, these guys, forget these guys. They're horrible. They're doing all these bad things. Let's go to the other side. And then they're happy at first. And then they decide they don't like some things that the other side's doing. And then you kind of see this flip-flop. And maximum maybe 4 to 8 years in any country, maybe upwards of 12 years if you're talking about 6-year terms, where you may see one party take hold. Now, that's not including some countries where, it's always the same party because they're amazing. Wink, wink. Having said that, it's cyclical. We're definitely teetering from one part of that cycle to another. It's normal. Every time that people live within a cycle change, they feel like it's never happened before, that they're living in the most ridiculous times ever, that, oh my God, the world is going, I don't know, hell in a handbasket. Look what's happening. I can't believe it. This has never happened before. It has. It just repeats itself. You may not have noticed the last cycle. It might have been 20, 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 years ago, and you're noticing this one. And if you're old enough, you may notice two. But that's why it always seems new. Oh, sorry about that. I should have checked. You'd think I'd know this. Well, actually, as CEO of Coinmetro, my job's gotten a bit more complicated over the years, so I can't have my eyes and ears into everything. But what I'll say there then is great, and then second to that is I actually own some LTO. I think. I'll second to that is that liquidity. Like we said, we're working on liquidity across all assets. So if you're asking about just general update LTO, to be honest, I don't have anything because it hasn't come across my desk in the recent past. Absolutely, Victor. We will absolutely do that. I'd love to get on a phone call and talk about geopolitics as well. Thoughts on New York City mayoral race? Well, we just talked about cycles in politics. There you go. Cycles can be extreme, right? This isn't working. Let's try something entirely different. Unfortunately, voters usually are somewhat ignorant as to what they're voting for. Voting's a lot like crypto trading. There's usually FOMO. And again, people get upset enough and they think something different should be better, and they go radically different. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Maybe nothing happens. Generally in life, when people get all feathers ruffled, nothing happens, except for that time when it does. So let's see. Is there a timeline for market makers, LP makers on coins like FET or Render? Yes, there is. As I said, aggregation is done. We're adding in new MMs and LPs in relative real time. And so let me see. I do believe we're going to see between now and September, the vast majority of assets, if not all assets at that point, having liquidity, whether it be from MMs, LPs, or a combination of the two. How will Bitcoin staking work? We'll mine Bitcoin on the back end. No, it's not about mining. It's about off-chain staking. So there will essentially be a trade. There's two aspects of it, but mainly a trade. It'll be Bitcoin longs hedged on the short side on options, which produce an interest rate, we're paid interest to hold. There's a certain cost to hold those positions. The net will be what we pay. A portion of the net will be paid on Bitcoin earn. Something like staking. It's off-chain though, so we're going to call it earn rather than staking. So you'll be able to tell the difference between on and off-chain. Okay. Well, everybody's rebranding, man. Everybody thinks that's the ticket, I guess, to new price action. It's just called. Maybe we should go from XCM to CMT. I don't know. Nah, we're not going to do that. I don't want to rebrand. Man, more intrusive private information control with less, or automatic controlled freedom of speech decreasing looks like a nice panorama. Yeah, well, I didn't say it was going to be nice. But again, people generally don't know what they're voting for. They just want change, quote unquote. They don't realize that change might underneath be something they don't want. Do you know how many accounts have 7-digit XCM holdings? Off the top of my head, no, but it's a handful. I would say there's at least, if we exclude Treasury, I can think of 7 or 8 right off the top of my head, but there's definitely more than that. I would say there's around a dozen, probably, more or less. Within this, with this many watching the stream, you should consider making more frequent again. Yeah, well, we might have to. I see that number still creeping up. It's like a whole village in Indonesia must be watching at this point. Absolutely. All right, guys, look, I got to the last. This is the last question. We got 6,235 people. It keeps ticking up. Watching right now. Anybody has a question, it could be about the market in general, about crypto, traditional finance, Coinmetro. Maybe you want to know what Coinmetro is all about. Pop in the question. We got another, well, we're over an hour, but I'll keep going if questions keep coming in. Will Mars someday provide around 10% AR regardless of assets? I think it's going to provide much more than that. You can imagine that Mars V2, the goal here is every single tradable asset. You trade an asset on Coinmetro, it's paired with another asset, right? You have your base pair and your quote pair. Here's a bit of, it's not for you, Victor, but for other people. So if you trade BTC, Bitcoin versus, say, USDT, Bitcoin or BTC is your base pair. That's what you're trading. And USDT is your quote pair. That's how you're quoted. That's why one Bitcoin costs 100 and whatever thousand USDT. When you trade on a platform, you pay commission in the base currency. So in that, if you're buying or if you're buying BTC, USDT, you're paying your commission in Bitcoin. Right? Automatically, obviously, you're not actually having to do anything. That Bitcoin then goes to our treasury. With Mars V2, a portion of that will go into a pool, and then we will gamify it by saying, look, if more than 100 million worth of BTC is traded this month, this pool goes to XCM stakers under Mars V2. And so every tradable pair, every base currency will have a pool, which means potentially you can earn every asset tradable on Coinmetro while staking XCM. Imagine if any one of those assets does a 2x, 5x, 10x, 100x, whatever. Not to mention that those assets, whether they increase massively in value or not, every day you could be receiving those assets based on the amount of XCM you're holding. So I do believe it can surpass. I think on average it can surpass 10% per year. There may be years you make double, triple digits of percentage. There may be years you make single digits, etc. But I do believe it absolutely has the power to surpass 10% on average, for sure. Favorite genre of music? Well, growing up, I was like the only white guy. So I grew up with a lot of hip hop back in the day, late 80s, early 90s. I'd have to say, though, now as an adult, I still like hip hop. But I pretty much every genre. There's probably a song, whether it's from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, 2020, whatever, that I like in almost any genre. So yeah, it's kind of hard to pick one. But if I went back to kind of the roots, it would be hip hop, and kind of old school hip hop. I would consider it old school now, I guess. So yeah, our governance token still planned. So they went off the plan for the time being. One of the reasons is we had these discussions about a potential merger and going public. And going public with a DAO made my head hurt. I'm not sure how that exactly would work. Though, depending on what happens with that potential merger, I think that the governance tokens may come back online, because it goes in line with other things that we're trying to do in other initiatives. If I'm just looking at the XCM ticker here in the background, 0.9999 cents, 0.09999 cents, up 31.47 today. Amazing. Zoom in if you can't see it. I can barely see it. Anyway, so yeah, they're not planned, but they're still in the backlog, so to speak. We're still thinking about how and potentially we can launch them. Do you like competitive video games? I don't play them, and I don't think I could watch people play them. So I don't know how I could like them. If that's a good answer to that question. And maybe it's not. It's a horrible answer, probably. But like esports, I don't like watching sports on TV, period. I'll go play a sport. I'll go watch a sport live, regardless of what that sport is. I can't watch TV. I can't watch sports on TV. I don't get it. Never got it, to be honest. That's true. Life is definitely a sport, and it's a game. And I get to watch it every day, just like everybody else does. Definitely gives you perspective on everything else. Thanks, Victor. I appreciate it. Oh, coming in a bit late. I came on a bit late, but any news about the release date for XCM Mars 2? So yeah, Mars 2. Actually, you know what? Let me bring this up so I can give you guys up-to-date information here on my roadmap. Give me a second. Now, I will mention as I'm bringing this up that we are trying to, we're looking to see how we might be able to launch this sooner, because it's going to be a major game changer, I think. Our tokenomics are also already amazing. I would say they are still the best, especially in the exchange market, but in almost any platform token. But Mars V2 is going to totally put us on another level. Right now, the Mars revamp is scheduled between December and mid Q1 2026. That's where it's scheduled. There is a possibility to move it towards the end or mid to end of Q4. But there's a few things that need to happen for that to be able to take place. So that's where it's currently scheduled. Good things are happening. Thanks for the updates. I appreciate that, Debbie. I appreciate you being here. Appreciate everybody being here. We're still ticking higher, 71.84 as I had 86, 190. XCM now above 2 cents. I feel like we should have a graphic for this. Jaime, graphics. He's not here. But yeah, we're at 10.02 cents, up 32.17 on the day. So officially in double-digit territory on Euro, and definitely well into double-digit territory when it comes to USD. So awesome. Will you integrate things like prediction markets, esports, betting? All that stuff requires additional licensing, etc. I think prediction markets are pretty cool. Tokenizing of prediction markets might be pretty cool as well. For instance, in an election like Trump-Biden, you would buy the Trump token if you thought Trump was going to go up, but it would be actually tied to a prediction market, not just buy the meme coin because it might go up because people will buy it. So prediction markets or something like that sounds interesting to me. Esports and betting going to require additional licensing. Not saying we won't go down that road. My whole thing with Coinmetro, though, is, look, we need to make a profit. All businesses need to make a profit, that's for sure. But I want to do it in a way that I'm actually helping people, grow their wealth, helping people make money, not giving them things that the majority will lose money on. And that's one reason why we don't list 50,000 assets. Like, oh, let's list whatever new meme coin because people are trading it. Yeah, but most people are going to lose money. And I don't want to make money on the back of people losing money. I want to make money for this company on the back of people making money. And betting, I'm not saying people don't make money betting, but most people don't. These AMAs are gold. Glad to see the increased viewership. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate you being here. It wouldn't be an AMA without people asking questions. So Thank you, Paul, and everybody else. Are XCM rewards and XCM staking and V2 still off the table? I like passively getting more XCM. XCM as an APR would go away, but every XCM traded on the platform will put a bit of XCM into one of those pools. So XCM won't go away entirely. Just the static APR would go away. Personally, I'm all for XCM rewards going away in Mars too. As said, the static APR will go away, but XCM will still be paid because people will be trading XCM. So you'll be getting that XCM commission into a pool. It'll be gamified to go into Mars too. What's your 1-minute pitch to all these new old users watching to get the back on CM right now and get involved? Well, they're here for a reason. For whatever reason, they all found us today. And that's one reason already to come back to Coinmetro or join forces with us or become a new client. Look, we're just different. We do things differently. The whole goal for us here is that we all do well. It's not about us charging liquidation fees because we don't. It's not about us throwing anything and anything at the exchange so we can make a bit of money, even though we know you're going to lose your money over time. We try to provide the most optimal experience for everybody. Our customer support is amazing, far better than anywhere else you're going to see in crypto, never mind in traditional finance. We do everything we can to make sure your experience is the best it can be. We listen to you guys. We do things like this. I do this once a month. We start to see viewership like this. I'll start doing it once a week again. I'm accessible via Telegram as well as many people on our team. And, you know, we want crypto to stay, but we want crypto to be different. We want it to be better than traditional finance. We don't want to mimic things and everything that happens in traditional finance. We'll take some of the good. We don't want the bad. We're just a different kind of company. And we'd like to see you put that to the test. Come open an account, talk to our support, put some assets on the platform, trade a little bit, give us your feedback, and we'll action that feedback. You know, if it's genuine and it can make the platform better for everybody else. Absolutely. Hi, Kevin. I have a trivial balance under €1, so can't claim it. Will this be changed in the future? Claim. Let me know what you mean by claim. Do you mean withdrawal? I think, you know, depending on the asset, yeah, obviously there's gas fees and things, right? So if you have under €1 and there's a gas fee that may annihilate that and actually put it to negative, there's not much we can do. If it's on a chain that generally has, you know, fees within the cents or well below €1, then yeah, I think that is something we can look at. Get in touch with support, please. Let them know, and you know, we'll do our best to fix it. Over 8 million, over 8,000 viewers right now. 10.02 still holding strong from 8:11 p.m. Estonia time, which was 1 minute ago. So anyway, guys, sorry, on the XCM Refer a Friend program. Okay. So why would you want to move XCM off platform? There's nowhere else you can trade it, really. So actually, the best thing to do is just let your XCM sit there. Once it gets to an amount that you want to have access to, just cash out to USDT or Euro or, you know, wherever, and move it wherever you want. I guess that would be. Oh! I'm getting real-time feedback. No. I guess I'm wrong. Claim from the referral program. Okay. Get in touch with support. Find out what the minimum is to claim, and they'll get in touch with me. We'll talk about it, and we'll see if we can do something about that. There you go. That should answer the question. Okay, guys, we're an hour and 13 minutes in. I can sit here and talk about Coinmetro all day. That's for sure. We got a growing audience. Yeah, like I said, get in touch with support. We'll go ahead and kind of discuss it, and we'll see what we can do about it. Maybe we can fix that for you. Got Jack coming up here. Loads of incredible progress in the last month. Lots of good things. Short-term horizon too. Where do you see the platform in 5 to 10 years? Well, I see it the same place that I've always seen it in 5 or 10 years. I think building a business, doing the right thing, trying to better everyone's situation and not just your own is it has to be the way that things will be done in the future. I think we're in a world that there's, you know, I'm all for capital. Capitalism is great. I'm not against capitalism. Businesses need to make money. If they don't make money, they can't provide anything to any end user. But there should be a way that that's done. And I'm happy to say that there's more and more like-minded individuals in the world, and we're able to reach those people now more than we ever could. So where do I see it? Well, I see crypto evolving to the point where we don't call it crypto. I see wallets and apps like Coinmetro becoming the center point for all value. So no matter where you transact, You can touch and pay. You can do from a digital balance, like a crypto balance. You can do it from cash. You can receive money. You can send money. Basically a super app where you can do everything. I'm not talking about chatting maybe, or, Twitter or X-like interactions, or WeChat-like interactions, but a place where essentially you can hold all your value. You get airline points, they're there. You can immediately convert them and buy something at the supermarket. You don't have to do anything. Just like I use my airlines point balance to buy this candy bar or whatever. And there's essentially live markets that exist for everything of value. I think that's where I see the general idea of decentralized networks and value on chain going. And as a part of that, I see that's where Coinmetro is headed as well. Also very much a hybrid solution where you see not only, let's say, centralized services or centralized pieces of an ecosystem, but also decentralized pieces, taking the best of both worlds. And yeah, the internet of value in an app. That's what I see. More raffles, absolutely. These two have been quite successful. We will continue to do these. I think they're amazing, especially for new listings and to get exposure for new listings. I think they're a great tool. Absolutely, for Coinmetro, for THT, for visibility, and for Coinmetro in general. Like I said, I think it's a good tool for new listings. We're gonna be using this tool in the future for sure. Any other goodies that the marketing team is preparing? They're preparing a ton of stuff, man. Every week I'm seeing new visuals. I'm seeing new ideas for promotions. I'm seeing new ideas on how we can improve SEO, on how we can improve our standing, on how we can improve the amount of eyeballs that hit some of our ads that we're placing, etc. So absolutely, from all angles, man, our marketing team is really starting to hit it out of the park. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing, both from design, from creative, from marketing in general, from product, from tech. I mean, support had always set a real high bar for teams within Coinmetro about, the way that they dealt with their job in general. And, behind the scenes, FinOps, compliance, also just workhorses. But behind the scenes, a lot of people don't see that. And when they do see it, it's frustrating because they might get compliance asking for a document or something, or FinOps asking for, a document or whatever. When I say FinOps, I mean financial operations. So, but now I'm seeing all departments just fire on all engines. It's really cool to see. And our investors are seeing that as well. That's why tickets are starting to roll in. More updates on that, like I said, over the next couple of weeks. We're going to make some public announcements, and I don't want to jump the gun on those. Cool. I think we're going to end it there, everybody. I really appreciate everybody's time. I see 8,939, 40 now, 41, 44 people rolling in. I think we definitely need to schedule another AMA within the short term. Everybody that's here, follow us, Coinmetro, on X. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us wherever you came from. Make sure you get us on YouTube. Come to our Telegram. Come to at Coinmetro's Telegram. You can find me there as well, at Kevin Murcko. Jump in, ask questions. Download our app from the App Store, Coinmetro. Get it on Apple or Google, wherever you may be. Jump in, chat to support. Chat them up a little bit. They're really good at what they do. I am still here. Absolutely. Apparently Victor had a bath. That was a quick bath, man. Did you get behind your ears? Hope so. Anyway, I'm jumping off for now. Thank you, everybody. We still have this tally going up, 9,095, 9,097. Amazing. Check us out. Hit us up on Telegram. Hit us up on X. I appreciate everybody that's here. Appreciate all the questions. Appreciate all the support. Big things coming for Coinmetro. Cheers, everybody.